still amazing.
Magic bin. Do you want your soda? Happening today. Right.
Commissioner Newton's pretty familiar with this. Commissioner Newton is pretty familiar with yeah.
Steve, how are you? Good to see you. We can if you want. I don't know if we need it, but I don't think we need.
I have a calendar invite for that. Policy steering.
supposed to go apparently. Hey Ty, are we just expecting Tony tonight, or do you think you'll have more? Okay, totally fine. So should we just start then? Tony is enough. You're right. Tony's the man. Don't need anybody else if Tony's here. I think any decision's going to cost you a lot of work. Okay. Well, let's get started then. Thank you for taking the time to come, and for folks from Robinson, we appreciate you coming up too. So thank you. We will go ahead and get started then. This is a work session, combined work session with the Morgan City Council to discuss trash and recycling program. We did have a work session previously to discuss this, and now we have some numbers that we can put to this and kind of come to a little more formal agreement, I hope. I guess just to remind everybody kind of where we're at with this, Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District, which Morgan County and Morgan City are a part of. Tony represents the city on that board, and I represent the county on that board. That board has enacted an ordinance that will require the member entities to implement some type of recycling program. We've talked about a couple of options here, and that's kind of where we're at. So I guess we'll go to that point. Do we want to talk about the different options? I think everybody's had a chance to look at the dollar amounts here. Maybe not a whole lot. We can talk through that. So right now we have a cost for hauling our trash, which is obviously through Robinson, and we appreciate their partnership. They've been our partners for a lot of years, and we appreciate that. So thank you. And I feel like Robinson has done the best they can to keep those costs to a minimum, so we appreciate that.
I don't know, there's no tip fee on here.
Wrong kind of tipping. That's for them to dump their truck. So that's actually the fee that's paid to Wasatch Integrated. So they charge a hauling fee, or excuse me, a disposal fee. It's listed as a tipping fee here. It's actually, they call it a household use fee. So they don't charge a per. You pay a tipping fee for your commercial stuff, but on the residential side, we actually pay a household fee rather than a tipping fee.
So it's not per tipping it.
No, this is actually per household. It shouldn't even be listed as tipping, but anyway. Right, Tony?
You can use the little one there too.
So, what is your county fee now? 19 or?
Yeah, 19 per month.
Okay, so that $7.20 is already embedded in that, right?
It is. Yeah. So right now our trash fees include the hauling
And the tipping fee?
that goes and the household use fee.
Or the tipping fee, yeah.
And we include a little bit for the cost of cans and for the cost of managing the program. So we have billing costs, we have the cost of going out and replacing cans and all that sort of stuff. So, and I assume the city does the same thing with their costs. You include a portion for administrative costs, right, Ty? And you're at the same $19, right?
Correct. So I'm just trying to digest this sheet right here a little bit. So I guess my question is, and so what I'm looking at here is, in addition to what we are paying now, the 19, if we go with the recycling, that's going to cost us, depending on whether bundle or opt out, an additional $3.50 or $5 for the hauling cost, and then we have to pay an additional $7.20 for a second tipping on the recycling.
No.
I'm confused.
That's what it looks like on here.
I am confused. That's
Yeah,
what it looks like to me
It
too.
shouldn't be that.
Well, the city manager made that document, so it's subject to human error.
What's that? So Wasatch Integrated is not going to charge us a household use fee for recycling disposal.
Okay, that's what I was under the
They're not
assumption
charging
of.
us anything to dump the recycling.
Okay, that's
So
what I
there's not a
thought.
tipping fee and there's not a household use fee.
So that's what had me confused with this a little bit.
Yeah. And the reason that they're not charging us that fee is because the intent of the recycling program is to divert from the landfill.
Okay, so and I apologize for taking up all, commenting so much here.
No, you're fine.
So help me out here, Ty and Steve, whoever. So we're suggesting that we forget recycling. Okay, just forget this ever happened. We're talking about raising ours to $20, okay? But what we're saying here then is that if we went with recycling, the only additional costs would be that additional hauling cost, that either that $3.50 or $5, correct? That would be directly related to the recycling
Yep. And the can for the recycling.
and the can payback. Is that correct? So that 55% on the sheet, that represents $5. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, okay, I see. That actually could come down if we had better than 55% participation. But that total per month then, down on the bottom, 5 and then the 34.16, this is where I can pull $7.20 off of that. Okay, I can't, I'm just looking at your sheet. Yeah, because honestly, the 32.45 or the 34.16 up from $20 a month sort of takes my breath away.
Yeah, but it won't be that because it'll be $7 less than that.
Okay. 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 And that's a little more palatable to me, but yeah. Okay.
So
So
I
that
just
bottom
I
number
just
is
glanced at this, so I
oh,
apologize.
it should be,
25.25.
yeah. Under the bundled service, you're talking $25.25,
And
right?
under the opt-out, you'd be what's that, 26 something, 20, yeah,
$26.96.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you may have at $34 a month.
And then one other thing that, and maybe you did figure this in, Ty, the can payback, because we get a better stipend on the can. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a little bit better stipend on the
15
kit,
versus
right.
the 10.
Okay, sorry about that, I was just very confused.
So,
So for
can
ease
I-
of looking at this, you're talking for a bundled service program, probably about $25, and for an opt-out program, about $27.
So when we say opt-out program, is that nobody participating or 55%?
55%
that mean?
participating. Well,
It's like 30%.
And the way that Wasatch Integrated has required that we do it, if we do an opt-out, we give an opt-out period typically for like 6 months. So everybody gets a can. They'd have 6 months to call and say, I don't want this can. And then any new move-ins or any changes after that 6-month period, there is no opt-out. You are required to have a recycling can.
So for those that opt out, what will their new fee be?
So,
Well, if they opted
7.25?
out, then I guess they'd be at 20, right? Because we would exclude the cost of that, potentially. But I think we should handle it a little differently. I actually think we should inflate the garbage just a little bit more than that. Say we're gonna increase it. If we do an opt-out program, I think the trash ought to be maybe a $22 charge, and then maybe $3 or $4 for recycling, for a couple of reasons. Number one, our trash costs are going to continue to go up. And the more people do not recycle, the more those costs, or the quicker those costs will go up, because the quicker the landfill
But-
will fill.
And I agree with what you're stating, but that's not what's that's not what's being shown. To your
Correct,
point.
correct. If
We're
we do
basically
that, I
saying,
think-
hey, you guys can recycle, but if you don't want to, it's the same price. Well, the reason why we're recycling is to help out with the landfill, and because the prices will increase. And so I guess I would like to see a little bit more of a, hey, here's what your price could increase to, even if you're not going to recycle. If you recycle, it'll help, or something to that.
Well, and even more than that, Wasatch Integrated has committed that based on our percentage of diversion from the landfill, so they're gonna figure out how much was diverted from the landfill through recycling, they will actually discount our household fee. So the trash cost will go down from that $7.20. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna go down, but it will go down slightly from that based on the amount that we divert.
some of those diversion discounts were $1 or $2 or something like
Yeah,
that. As I
yeah,
recall.
depending on the city, they were down.
But that was probably 85% diversion or something like that, correct?
It was
Am I-
pretty
am I-
high diversion. Well, it wasn't 85% diversion, but it was high participation in the recycling program,
Well,
which
yeah,
creates more diversion, right?
Right, okay.
And one of the things that we've been in contact and discussions with Wasatch Integrated about is they have included in that diversion the green waste, which I have a little bit of heartburn over for us and
Yeah.
for you, because most of Morgan City's green waste goes to our transfer station. And I would say a good share of Morgan County's green waste goes over the fence into the cow. And
The
so,
horse.
I mean, I've never dumped grass clippings in my garbage can ever, and I don't intend to.
Nor have I.
Right? And so that's one thing that I've been in discussions a little bit, and I brought up with Nathan a few times, and I think you have too. So we'll work on that on the green waste side, but I think from a recycling perspective, the more participation we have, the more we can divert from the landfill, the less our costs are on the trash hauling side. So again, I think that just supports the idea that we should increase the trash more than just the 20 that we're going to need to keep up with inflation and where we're at with costs, to hopefully encourage people to take advantage of the recycling,
Well, what-
if we choose to go with the opt-out.
What has it been? Has it been $20 for a long period of time?
It's been 19.
18 for some time.
For
About
what, 4
a year and a
years?
half.
Has it only been 2 years?
Been 2 years or so.
I thought it's been like 3,
Because we
but
were
maybe I'm wrong.
18.
We were here. when-
18 and then we raised it to 19.
Yeah.
But, I'll just say this and then I'll shut up. Maybe. I hadn't thought of that, but I agree a little bit with what you're saying, because we're not gonna go out and sell this, our constituents by showing this, but what they're gonna wanna know is they're gonna say, so how much more is that can gonna cost me? Just tell me how much more that can's gonna, that recycling's gonna cost me. And so if your total cost is $27, and you want to say well, your garbage is going to be 22 no matter what, your recycling's 5 more, I think that's a little bit more sellable. Then, that's just I think that's not a bad idea.
And then if we go to the 20, let's say it's the 22 number, and then our number for 100% participation is 25, that's much closer to where we could even say, hey, we need this to be, well, we're looking at making it, I don't know if you'd say mandatory or not, but
Well, and that's the other option. That's what we need to weigh out too. We could do just a bundled service. There are municipalities in the district that have gone both directions. It's Woods Cross, right, that does the bundled? Yeah, Woods Cross does a bundled service. They charge it, and I don't know what the dollar amount is. I think it is around $20 or something. Anyway, they charge a flat rate, and that includes your recycling and your trash can. If you don't want the recycling can, that's fine. They'll come pick it up, but you still pay the same rate regardless. That's a bundled service. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to each, right? On an opt-out program, you could have those who would say, I just am not going to fill a recycling can. I don't want a recycling can, and they don't want to pay the extra. Could be argued, though, that by them not having a can, they're increasing the cost because there's more going to the landfill, right? Bundled program is, I think, a little easier to manage from a budgeting perspective and from a billing perspective, because you wouldn't have residents on 2 different rates. Everybody would be on the same rate regardless. There's good and bad to both. I think the bundled service, if we went with the bundled service, I think we could go probably at $25 and make that work. Instead of, if we go with an opt-out program, I think we're going to have to be at 27 total to make that work based on the economics and the hauling costs. So there is some advantage to everybody if we went with the bundled service to that regard, as it'd save everybody a couple bucks a month on trash service.
Yeah, there's just a comment on the opt-out. There are additional costs to running the opt-out program, so having a little bit more of a included in the first can charge versus, because the actual cost of delivering and picking up, and then administratively keeping track of different billing. Everyone will be on the same billing cycle, and there's going to be, hey, what happened? I thought I opted out. Why am I being charged? Nobody picked up my can. All of those administrative burden things on the opt-out. So like that idea, if you do go the opt-out, to do like the 75-25. And then I have the updated numbers on A, B, and C without the 720.
Oh, okay.
I removed those, so if you want those, I could those to you. We can just. It really doesn't matter for tonight. We're not picking a rate. It's just concept.
Yeah, more the concept of it.
Yeah, but it's $20, 20 and 7 about on the first one. Second one's like 22 and 5. And the last one's 23 and 4. Those are rounded.
You're saying these different numbers here, Ty, 22, 23, and so forth. How is that working in relation to what you're showing us on the paper? I'm not understanding
So
your
on
numbers.
So on A where it says first can,
Yeah.
instead of 25, that would be 20. Yeah, we started changing the numbers on that.
Oh, sorry.
So why would it go down from what we've got, what you should?
We removed the 720.
Okay, so, but that has to be paid one way or another, correct?
It's already included in our trash. It has nothing to do with the recycling. It's not
I didn't know
additional
that.
cost.
I thought they charged us per can. The
Okay.
email from
Alright.
Robinson, it said the 720.
Well, that's what I
So
thought
even
it
though we're
was.
adding cans, they're not going to charge us on the recycling.
Correct.
Okay. I missed that
Yeah.
part.
So they won't charge us on that. Our only costs for recycling are the can, the administrative costs, and the hauling costs.
But there is still
Correct. So our garbage service, the
Not on the
costs aren't really
recycling?
changing other than, I mean, over time, obviously, fuel prices and stuff have caused some increases. And we're at a point where we're gonna have to increase no matter what on the trash side, just to
It's gonna
keep
go
up with
down
that.
after the first.
Let's hope. Let's hope that fuel prices go down, right? But Steve will tell you that the cost of a truck to haul it is not going down, is it?
No, I'm sure
So-
that's not.
Yeah, Tony?
We also have operational costs that aren't included in this, so we're gonna have increased, we've only got one pickup to deliver cans, right? So out of the gate, delivering a recycling can to every resident's gonna take us, we're gonna have to get a trailer and, some extra staff, so.
Yeah, and I don't
we
think
might
we've
round the-
included that either. We probably need to add a buck or so for that.
Yeah, so we'll have to round, but that's the hard thing is you have to, whenever you pick which route you're going, you're gonna have to choose the rate before we know. So that's really why I did the 55% participation rate, is because you have to, for budget reasons, I'd rather err low and it doesn't change the overall cost a ton. You know,
So, let me understand that just a little more. If we recycle, I mean, if everybody has it, 100%, it's gonna cost us somewhere around $25 or $22 approximately.
25. yeah.
25.
But now that's total.
That's total. Total cost per month.
That's including trash and recycling.
Okay.
That's right. Maybe a little less because we'd get a diversion discount, which may be anywhere from $1 to, I don't know, $1.25, $1.50, depends on how much we can divert.
So Teresa, you were shaking your head. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay, so then if we go with a opt-out, it's gonna cost less because they don't have a can.
Well,
Yet,
but our hauling costs are going to be more.
the hauling costs are gonna
Because
be
from
more.
Robinson's perspective, if they can pick up a can at every house, they're running the truck down the road. If they pick up a can at every house at, $4 a can versus every other house at $5 a can, it's the same, right? So they would rather pick up more, and correct me if
So-
I'm misstating this, but spreads the cost out.
So my question then is what happens with those people that hardly put out their cans? And you know where I'm talking probably, myself included. You hardly put your can out, and yet when we do, most, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, if we recycled and we have a can, but we never put it out, then what happens? I mean, you're still paying the same price. So what I'm wondering is just across the board, just keep the price the same, whether they opt in or opt out.
Well, that's what a bundled price would be.
Yeah, I know. So,
Yeah. I actually agree.
even
I
though-
like the bundled idea from the perspective that I think it's easy. I think it's easier to explain, and I think it's easy long-term. Because even if you go with the opt-out program, in 6 or 8 months, everybody's on basically a bundled program anyway.
yeah.
The advantage to the opt-out program is it would help those folks who maybe have been here long-term, are perhaps on a fixed income, maybe it's 1 or 2 people living in a home, they're not going to use a lot of extra. For a lot of our residents, this would be a lot cheaper than having 2 cans.
Right.
And we have a number of residents that have 2 cans, but if you could get rid of your second can and just have a recycling can, you're actually gonna save quite a bit of
Right.
money.
You would.
But it's really those few residents that are in the situation where, perhaps they're not going to fill the cans, it's just them, that sort of thing.
What's on that when they're checking? I don't know what the cost on, they could do at least like that. Because like you said, we have a lot of this cost in there. So even if we do get that $1 or whatever back, then it's cost.
I think you're right, especially initially, because our initial costs are gonna be a lot higher than our ongoing costs, that initial cost of delivering all those cans. And that cost goes way up, in my opinion, a lot more with an opt-out program, because you're gonna have people call and say, come get this can, probably a lot more than on a bundled program. There will still be people who say, I don't want the can, but I would guess it would be less. So
So-
it's less administrative cost.
So for these, some people that have, like, I'm thinking of my dad. He puts out his garbage once a month. Now you give him 2 cans, he's gonna put it out once every 2 months. You know, that kind of a thing. Because he'll either burn it or save it until he can burn, or just because he wants to do that. So I'm just asking, what is the advantage of that kind versus, yeah, I know.
You probably shouldn't burn it.
Well, he burns all the cardboard in his fireplace normally. So,
Yeah.
If you went to a bundled program, would you gentlemen consider a hardship case for individuals?
And that's something that the board, Wasatch Integrated has allowed, so we can do a hardship case, and we could, determine that. Tony, you and I talked a little bit about like maybe doing it based on the circuit breaker, for property tax, but there wasn't a lot of resonance on that. However, we're actually voting, isn't it on our agenda tonight? Yeah, so tonight, we're actually going to likely implement an update to that's a little less restrictive than the state requirements for circuit breaker. It takes the income requirements to 50,000 a year and a few other things, but my thought is that could be a good determinant for hardship case, so if you qualify for that, you could also qualify for hardship case on your trash costs. And maybe in that case, instead of 25, you're at 20. I don't know what that would be. We'd have to determine a rate for that.
is that going to be an administrative nightmare for Cindy?
I mean, there will be some, but I see that no different than if we did the opt-out program. You're going to have the same thing where you're going to have residents on both rates. I think
I agree. I mean, no matter what you do, if you do a hardship, you are going to have a two-tiered.
you're going to have a few.
You'll have a two-tiered
Yeah.
rate structure, so.
One way
But
that
I-
a hardship case might help that I hadn't really thought of until just now, but if we did the opt-out program, the requirement is after 6 or 8 months, it goes to everybody's required to be on the program. But if you did the hardship case on a bundled program, even if you were a new move-in or you moved homes or whatever, had a new account, you could still apply for the hardship case. So it could help some people in that regard more long-term than just an opt-out. But anyway, that's just a thought.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I personally would be for a hardship case. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that.
I wouldn't mind that. I'm just thinking that, even in my dad's case, if we were to, I would like to have just the bundled service. If they don't want the can, it's still gonna be that same cost. That's just my opinion. And then if after a year we determine that that's not gonna cost that much to do it, then we drop the price.
Unless they qualified for a hardship case.
Yeah, and then that case, yeah. And that, if they hardship, then of course that's something we just have to determine what's
Well,
gonna
and
be
frankly, I
best.
think if they qualify for a hardship case and still want the recycling can, we allow them to have the recycling can.
So I do.
Because I feel like the people who would qualify for that, I don't mind as a taxpayer and resident of the county subsidizing that slightly. It's going to cost pennies. I think most people would feel like that's okay if you're helping out your neighbor who maybe can't afford to pay for that. But
So I would do bundled services at $25.50 per month with a hardship reduction of 25% if they qualify, which would take them down to about $19, which is about where they're at right now.
No, like we talked there, like the chairman says, you start trying to chase some of this out, and by the time you go gather up a garbage can from someone on their hardship case, if they've got a big family but their income's low, by the time I go pick that can up and then we got to store it again, the $3 a month difference it's going to make, let them have the can and recycle their garbage if they get that a hardship case. 'Cause you're going to spend 3 years of savings by the time you we go pick that can up.
Yeah, I would do the
I agree.
hardship is just a reduction in the fee. It's still a bundled service.
The
You get
service
both
is the
trash
same
and-
Whatever
regardless.
that minimum $22 is, so it's gonna be a $3 or $4 a month savings. But
And
Yeah,
then to the
I like
extent
that.
that extra quarter that we're charging over and above this cost doesn't pick up the initial implementation cost, then I think we just pay for that as part of our initial implementation. The fund balance or the balance, and I know there's a balance in our.
There's enough fund balance to cover the cost of that, and, you know, at that rate, if we were at that 25.50, we would replenish that over a couple of years on the can cost side, so. Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm guessing we're not gonna have, it's not like we're gonna have hundreds of people that are gonna even qualify for the hardship case. You're probably talking a few dozen. But to me, I don't feel like that's unreasonable. I like what you've proposed, Robert. You know, maybe we go 25.50 as a bundled price, hardships at 25% discount, and we could keep that hardship 25% discount as costs go up too. So it's not a set dollar amount. It's always, you know, hey, if we increase the cost by 10%, everybody's going to pay that increase with 10%. You'd still get a discount. I mean, Tony's one of a group. He's got to still talk with the Morgan City Commission about it, but, or council, excuse me. So. She's ready. She's like, approved.
I think that would be wise if we're doing that.
Just for clarification for notes, what's the definition of hardship?
It would
tie
be
the hardship back to the circuit breaker that was changed.
the homestead credit. I think if they qualify for either or. Yeah, so the homestead credit is going to be relaxed. Actually, tonight, that's on our agenda to approve the final version of that, but it changes the income requirement to 50,000. It does require that they can't have secondary homes, you know, that they own. And the homesteader credit requires that you've been in your home for 25 years. So we're talking about the long-term residents of the county. But I think if they qualify for either or, they should qualify for a hardship case on the trash. They'd request it. So and I think what we could do is figure out, maybe we work with the assessor's office, and when they request circuit breaker, or, because they do that through the assessor, correct? Oh, they do it through you? Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, then when they request that through the clerk's office, you could see that and say, hey, they qualify for the circuit breaker, the homesteader credit, and we're automatically going to implement it on their trash as well.
It would technically be $19.12 a month at a 25%.
So is what I wrote in the gray correct, Robert?
Yeah, that looks correct to me.
And
Would we do it? They do get abatement on their property taxes, don't they? I don't think I necessarily would on that well, it's not veterans, it's active duty, right, that gets abatement. It's not a veteran.
It's veteran.
Is it veterans too? Oh, I thought it was active duty. I mean, I think, well, if it's 100% disability, so we probably don't have very many that are in that case either, do we? I don't know that I have a preference either way. Matt, Jared, what are your thoughts on where we're
Just what I initially
going?
mentioned, I think we gotta show what the increase of that current garbage would be. Why are we doing this program? And I get recycling, and I understand that, and I think a handful of people will be on board, but if more than 50% of our county don't care about recycling, then why would we even implement this? So I think just stressing what we said initially a little bit more to say this is the reason why we're implementing this. The cost will be going up, helping out, the landfill cost, whatever you want to say, but we just gotta, I think we gotta speak to that just a little bit more. So-
I agree that on our bill.
Cindy, can you talk in a mic?
Yeah, so the short answer is no, we don't do a normal like newsletter, but we do a postcard bill for trash, and Cindy's talking about having a QR code added to that. That
Yes.
would direct them to a site.
Yeah, Jeremy and I are gonna work on that and send it out in our next billing.
So I agree 100%. I think messaging is important here, and how we present this is very important. It should not be presented as, hey, you're gonna have to pay extra for recycling, because that's really not what we're talking about here. We're talking about really restructuring the entire solid waste services for the county, and part of that restructure is to add a recycling program in order to divert waste from the landfill. Right now, 100% of your trash that you throw in your can goes down to Layton. It gets dumped on a tipping floor. They scoop it up and they put it in 18-wheeler trucks, and they haul that out to the Tecoy landfill out in Tooele. So it goes 90 miles out into the desert, and they actually tip it out there and dump it and landfill it there. So
Wasatch.
Wasatch Integrated will help us with that. They're actually going to help us with that. They're also going to help us with some stickers that'll go on these recycling cans that tell you what you can and can't put in them. They have some videos available, and they'll provide us with some QR codes for that as well. So they hired somebody that her full-time job, in fact, she was the one that came and presented to us, Colette. Her full-time job is the PR portion of this. So we'll work with them to come up with something. And I think, the city and county should be on the same page in the messaging that we send out, so maybe we can work with them to develop something to make sure we're all in agreement on what it says. They had talked about that, and I think they'll cover the cost of that, won't they? I think so.
Can you repeat what he said?
They
For the
would,
mic?
they would provide mailers as well.
Okay.
And I believe they said they'd cover the cost of that.
Getting my
We'll
nastygrams
confirm.
from IT.
But there is a ton of information that's going to have to be, forthcoming, because people are gonna have questions, and the more you can answer those questions and let them know and be aware of what's going on, the better. There is going to have to be a lot of education. When, why, how, that sort of thing, so.
And one thing to note, Commissioner Fackrell, I heard your comment just now. Actually, they have procured some grant opportunities that help cover the cost of this recycling stuff. So that, the one grant is gonna pay us back $15 per can if we go with a bundled service, but some of the grant monies also will help cover the cost of them doing the PR stuff, so.
Well, that's good.
So it's not just us paying them and them paying somebody.
Pay them anyway.
Yeah.
And so one way or another, it comes out of all of us.
Yeah, no, there is some grant opportunity that'll help with that. But at the end of the day, our trash costs are going to exponentially increase when everything has to be hauled. Because the nearest landfill right now is the Tecoy landfill. The other landfill, the New Era landfill, it's down west of Utah Lake. It's a little further mileage-wise, but it's similar in time. And Wasatch Integrated has an interest in that landfill. They own a portion of that. So they will, the Bayview landfill, they'll be able to haul to that one as well. But hauling your trash a long distance is expensive versus taking it down to Layton and dumping it. I mean, our hauler costs are greater than most of the district, or most of the entities in the district, simply because of the distance. I mean, Steve and his guys have to drive a lot further to Croydon than they do to Layton and dump at the landfill. So we totally understand that, but
What's the possibility of having a local landfill?
Good place.
it's a good question.
10 years of federal startup funds?
I actually got a call about that the other day from a local family that's interested in doing that, and I reached out to Wasatch Integrated to talk a little bit about that. The permitting process is pretty arduous, and it's state and federal permitting to do a landfill. Landfills have to be lined. You have to have the upfront cost to close the landfill as well. So you have to have a bond that will cover the cost of closing a landfill, and that's millions of dollars. Wasatch Integrated keeps about, 15 million on hand just for closure of the landfill. It's a large amount of money. Yeah,
Well, when you
it's-
close it,
it's
it's not all the
closing,
way
and then-
closed, 'cause it gives
yeah,
off
for the
gases
next
still.
the next 30 years, you have to maintain that closure. They give off gases. Now the gases, the Davis
Reusable.
landfill actually sells those gases and
So does
generates
Weaver
some income.
County. Weaver County does that.
What's
too.
that?
Weaver County does that on some of their old.
On their old stuff. Weaver
their
County
old
doesn't
stuff.
have a landfill anymore,
Right.
at least an open one. So
Right.
all of their costs, they haul everything.
But their energy, they're producing quite a bit of energy out of it too.
Yeah.
These numbers we're looking at here tonight probably would look pretty good compared to trying to have our own local landfill, so it's pretty pricey.
Yeah, the
And then-
best scenario, if that were to be the case, I think would be for a local to operate on their own as a private entity and charge a tipping fee to Wasatch Integrated. Now, when I did talk with Nathan, and we only kind of crossed paths because he was on vacation last week, so it was voicemails back and forth, but he did indicate that if there were a closer landfill that was competitive in the tipping fees, they would be very interested in using it simply because the hauling costs are high. But there's a whole nother group of challenges that come with that. I mean, you'd have to deal with neighbor complaints and zoning, and there's a lot that would go with that. One option could be like a C&D, a construction and demolition landfill. Summit County operates one of those in Hennifer. Those aren't lined, so they're usually a little less expensive to operate, but you still have to have closure and post-closure and all that stuff. Anyway, it's something that could be explored down the road, but until such time as that's available, in 12 to 15 years, the Davis landfill will reach its capacity and everything will have to be hauled, all commercial and residential waste. So, and the cost will probably double, if not more.
I recall I've been around long enough to know, I recall when we were talking about becoming part of the special service district, there was talk about trying to find a local landfill, and that, as I recall, that was very contentious. It didn't go over very well at the time, so hence they decided to go with Wasatch Integrated or whatever, Wasatch Energy or whatever they were called back in those days. So, but yeah, I can even remember when they were talking about having a local landfill, and it was quite a debated subject.
Mike, use the mic.
Yeah, there was an open landfill in Stoddard for a long time there.
How about when we burned our tree dump over here? We'd light that on fire twice a year. That became quite a big issue as well, right?
So Ty, for schedule, the next city meeting is the 8th. Is this going to be on that agenda? Yes. And so then our next,
It's not, no. Because we wanted to wait till we knew where we were gonna go before we made a proposal.
you're going to go after us. So our next meeting is the 15th. And then we have another one on the 29th, I believe.
Well, I guess at your next meeting, you'll discuss maybe in a work session and see where you land.
Okay. So if you want to send me any updates and I'll forward this to you, back to you with that note. So then, you're going to get me any work session notes from city, and then I will tentatively add it to the October 15 agenda for commission. It's like chicken or egg, who's going first?
We will have numbers tied on the
So I don't know if this is a bigger hassle than it's worth in terms of implementation, but for those people that do have 2 cans that are going to give up one in exchange for a recycling can, do you want to try to pick those up at the time you're dropping off the recycling, or is it better to just keep those functions separate? It's just something to consider in the implementation when you notify people what the program is.
I think Cindy has an opinion, but she needs to say it into a microphone. The beauty of YouTube.
My thought is I would like to pick everything up. And I have 538 customers. I'm gonna put a lot of legwork in and call them and see. I will call them and actually ask them what they want. So it saves in the long run, maybe? I don't know.
Do we know what the time frame is for acquiring the recycling cans? Have we?
4 to 6 weeks. That was with our first, what he quoted me, but it could be 8 weeks now, so.
So we probably ought to have on our next meeting agenda the purchase of those cans, because we need to get going on
For
purchasing
or
them.
an RFP or a bid, or what are you wanting?
Well, we've gotten bids, right?
Yeah.
So how many or how many companies did we get bids from?
2.
I just go through Toter.
Oh, for the cans themselves, I apologize.
So we just barely put it out to bid like last summer. I mean, and we found Toter in North Carolina or Texas. There's North Carolina, Texas, and
So we've done the RFP process. Now we've just ordered from
and they're
them.
the best price that we found.
So I think it's probably a purchase then rather than an RFP. But
Oh,
we ought to get
sorry.
the cans
There's a
ordered, and
button we gotta
I
hit.
think we assume, well, do we want to wait and hear from you on, I don't want to move forward with a bundled program if the city decides they're adamantly against it. But I guess either way, we've got to have a can for every household,
It's
don't
the
we?
same number of cans, because
Okay.
even on the opt-out, you deliver it every,
And then they call.
pick it up.
Okay.
So it's the same.
So either way, we need to order cans
Yep.
for everybody.
Then, just to point, there's also people that currently have recycling cans that are gonna have to get rid of their recycling can and get a new recycling can that are hauled by
Doing
ACE.
through.
And that's a different program. right?
That's a whole different
Independent third
program, but
party.
same thing, we have to swap out second cans, and there's gonna be more of them that are gonna swap out their recycling can.
And I could be wrong, but, and maybe Tony knows the answer to this. I think it was about 20% of households in the county have an ACE can. So about 20% are already recycling and choosing to do that through a third party. This will be significantly cheaper than what they're paying to a third party now. Yeah. The 500 residents that have a second can and the 20% of residents that have recycling will see a savings.
So when we're gonna start rolling this out, that's all we're, January, is that our rollout date?
Well, I think the other thing we ought to consider is what, I would look to our public works departments that are gonna handle the delivering of cans and all that stuff to tell us what that's gonna take for a rollout.
It's gonna take us a hot minute.
It's gonna take several months to deliver.
It'll take a while to get here.
Yep.
So we're gonna need cans right away.
And you need to check on your timeframes, because one of those states is in the hurricane area, and the longshore strike that just started.
Yeah, it could
Probably
be
disrupt
many
the supply chain
factors.
significantly. I don't know what portion of their supplies they get from overseas, maybe not much,
But maybe in theory, we announce the changes to the program, you know, starting maybe mid to late December, and maybe it goes into effect, you know, we start, I don't know,
There's a whole checklist.
February, I
With
don't know.
Wasatch Integrated, once we choose which route we're going, then.
Yep.
we'll
And they'll
just
help us
start
navigate
coordinating
that.
on that. And then we kinda glossed over, but the county was gonna provide all the space to store these cans.
That's right.
I-
We can probably figure out something.
It doesn't hurt to try.
We've got the fairgrounds.
Initially, especially the wintertime, it'd be great to store them at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, it would be.
Brett's back there.
Michael, they removed they removed the penalty. They had a deadline penalty in there, didn't they? But
They've removed the penalty, but the deadline is still July 1st of 2025.
2025.
But that's to have a program
An-
established.
Announced.
We,
that-
yeah, we could be, partway into rolling it out. It doesn't have to be fully rolled
Right,
out.
correct.
So we're in good shape timeline-wise, I think, if we can kind of nail this down by end of year.
And so just to clarify, recycling is still every other week?
Correct.
Okay, so Cindy, I'm one of the
Every
weirdos
other
with 2
week.
recycling cans. So, FYI.
Just collapse those Amazon boxes a little smaller.
I don't do Amazon, but there's a lot of paper here in the county that ends up in my recycling can.
You gotta go paperless, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right. I think that's it.
Thank you so much
again,
for meeting
Tony
with us.
And Lance. Lance, before you go, I just wanted to mention seeing your hat there reminds me. Lance played a big role in the truck pulls that occurred over the weekend, and just wanted to thank you for all your work in that, and thank the Lions Club for their effort. It was a good community event, brought a lot of people. I don't know how they did financially, but it looked like it was decent attendance.
We still haven't got all the numbers back on for the Lions Club and their portion of the fundraiser, but I know the raffle they were doing. Every year the polling association has tried to do a charity poll, and they kind of done it in the past for breast cancer research or treatment. They raised $4,802 from their raffle that will go to the Huntsman Cancer Institute directly from that event that night.
That's awesome.
It's club. I mean, it's every little bit helps when you're a volunteer organization like that. So I appreciate the commission's support of that and the willingness to let us be able to use that facility and stuff. It's really is one of that association's better shows for the last 4 or 5 years. Little Old Morgan, it's been a really good turnout. It's been a really good thing for the Lions Club over the last 15 years. So I appreciate the county and the commission's support on that event. So
Awesome. Thank you. We appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, we're going to take about a 5-minute break, so we'll start our meeting just a couple minutes late here.
Janet wanted to try it and I forgot to put it back. I'm sorry. It's
I
Janet's
like
fault.
it,
Have you been sitting on the floor?
Well,
more or less.
He wants, so
I
then
like
he
this
got
one.
it, so then Janet wanted to try it to see if she wanted one and I forgot to put it back. Oh, it's your fault, Janet.
Does she like it is a question.
She hasn't decided yet.
It's different. It's different. You're welcome. I appreciate that. It's all right.
How are you doing?
I'm going to snag one. If you're just joining us this evening, there is a sign-in sheet if you'd like your name listed on the record as having attended. We'd love for you to note your name over there. There's also agenda copies in the rear of the room. We just finished a work session with Morgan City, so we'll just be a couple of minutes and then we'll get started.
Before we get started, for those of you that are here for public meeting, there was a misconception last time in the planning commission, that's a back and forth. Unfortunately, when you make a public comment, it's not a back and forth with the board because they're not the applicant. That's why it's not a back and forth. It's literally a public comment. So just wanted to make you aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Morgan County Commission meeting. Today is October 1st, 2024. We just concluded a work session with Morgan City discussing changes to our solid waste management program. More to come on that for county residents in the near future. We will begin with an invocation and pledge of allegiance, and Commissioner Wilson has offered to take care of that.
Give thee thanks this day for our blessings, grateful for our health and our strength, and we're thankful, Heavenly Father, for this beautiful community which we are able to reside. Grateful for the good residents that reside here and all the good that they do. Thankful for the blessings that thou bestows upon us, the moisture, and we're thankful for all those who serve in our behalf to protect our freedoms. We're grateful, Father in heaven, for the bounteous crops we've had this year, and we're thankful for the way that the water in our dams have stayed. Pray that we can have a good evening this evening, that we can make decisions that will be best for our community and keep it the beautiful place that it is. We appreciate all that thou does for us in our lives, and we recognize thee in all that we have and do, and we say these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Appreciate that. We will begin with our consent agenda items. We have 7 items on the consent agenda this evening. Are there any questions about the items on the agenda from any member of the commission, or any items that you'd like moved into the action items section?
None.
Okay, seeing none, we'll look for a motion on the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Wilson and a second by Commissioner Fackrell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes and is unanimous. Thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest for any commissioners on any of tonight's agenda items. Okay, seeing none, we will move into our public comment period. This is an opportunity for the public to address the commission this evening. Let's see, I don't believe that we have any we do have one public hearing. That is item number 8. That's the rezone request for the parcels in the Hartscrabble area. So if you have comments related to that, you will have an opportunity to address the commission during that public hearing for item 8. Otherwise, if you have comments you'd like to address to the commission, now would be your time to make those comments. Okay, seeing none, we will move. We do not have any presentations this evening, so we'll move into our action items. Action item F1. This is discussion decision, resolution CR 24-81, appointment of a commission vice chair. In accordance with our bylaws, I will open the nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate, or move that we nominate Matt Wilson as vice chair.
Second.
Are there any, so we don't second this, we ask for any other nominations?
I just seconded it.
You're okay, you can
Yeah,
second it too,
yeah.
that's great. Okay, I see no other nominations, so I'll close the nominations, and then we'll look for a vote to install Matt Wilson as the vice chair. All
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, thank you. All right, we will move to action item F2. Discussion with our Public Works Director, Mr. Brett Heiner, regarding community park improvements at the Enterprise and Milton Parks.
I think maybe virtual would have been better, but maybe. So instead we're live, huh?
Yep.
Okay, with a little improvement at the Enterprise and Milton Park. Let's talk about the Enterprise Park first. Good. Got that map? If you've been down to that, if you've been down to that trail, you can see that it needs some work. We need to get it overlaid. I'm worried about it lasting much longer before we have to rebuild. So I think we need to kind of do some of that. I'd like to make it a little bit wider if we could. And then if you look at the parking lot in the yellow, I'd like to improve that parking lot by overlaying it and then take those two wings out, make it a little bit bigger, increase the square footage of it. So that's my proposal to do that.
And Brett, the cost I see here is the 52,000,
Yes,
52,800.
that is our estimate for that. That's for
So-
both.
So Brett, we discussed this a little bit with the use of impact fees, but so on the trail, I can see that we're expanding that,
Mm-hmm.
widening that, so that would, our impact fees would qualify for that work. The parking lot. is that-
Just
would
expanding
that-
the square foot, the footage of it, not the overall size of the outside perimeter.
So the parking area would expand then, Brett?
Yes, and so if you take that yellow area, if you take the yellow area in there, we would take out those wings right there and take those straight across and make that. If you look down, if I can point that out, right in the middle, so the parking comes in truck or car length, and they have to go around two little islands, and they take them out and expand right there. So we would take them out ourselves actually and prepare that for paving. We'd have to pour some curb back in front of that so that it equals about 30 foot of curb total to expand that. So
Will you be able to get it done this year, or is this for next year?
this year, if we get it approved, I've got Parsons on a tentative schedule. If we do get it approved before, they probably can do it before November 1st as far as the paving goes. We'll have to do our part, of course, before that.
Do we need to make it any bigger? The
What's
parking
that?
lot? Do we need the parking lot any bigger?
Well, this would make it a little bigger in size, inside of the parking lot, but not, as far as make it the perimeter any bigger. I think if we make the inside bigger and make some more parking, it'll get used quite a bit. That'll help. That'll help some.
Can we use impact? Can we use impact fees for it?
So that's my understanding, is that if we're expanding, so adding or expanding a park infrastructure, then we can use impact fees. If we're just replacing existing infrastructure, then we cannot. So where both of these, the intent is to actually expand versus just replace, I think that they would qualify.
Yeah, that's my
Is that your
understanding,
understanding,
too.
Brett?
Yeah, and that's the reason I've pursued this, to do it, so we can use those funds.
So, last meeting, we saw those dollars. It was 400,000 and change was in the
Parks, impact,
impact fees for community parks.
Mhm.
We have two impact fee sections, one for community parks and one for regional parks. The regional park is the fairgrounds. The community parks are most of the other parks in the community.
And then the other park would be Milton. It's not currently paved.
Just
There is
one
a
second
spot that's-
though. So on the use of the funds, you're using impact fee for the actual expansion, but not the maintenance and overlay of the balance.
That's a good question. I don't know how that works. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know either. I don't know.
I mean, I would think on the trail,
Mhm.
that
Widen it.
you're widening a trail, you have to overlay the entire thing. I would think that
It'd be the same.
the question I think more is on the parking lot. would it qualify for the whole thing or only for the expansion portions, right?
Yeah, I think we should look at that carefully, because I don't think you can't use impact fees simply for maintenance.
Right.
And, you can't throw an extra water fountain into the project and say, well, now it's new. So, I think we should just look, I don't mind using impact fees for the actual increased capacity of the facilities. I think that's clearly what they're for, but let's be careful about the way we do that.
You know, maybe the safer way to do this is to approve the trail upgrade from impact fees and just do the parking lot from general fund balance.
And I
mean,
and
even
I
if
can
we're
get
not,
that price.
we've got enough, I think, projects we could use the impact fees for that I don't know that we have to use only impact fees to do this.
And I can separate that out pretty quick, but we'll
Well,
have
we've
to
got
get
a separate right here. It's
Oh, yeah.
20,962.50 for the parking lot and 31,850 for the trail.
Do you want the statute definition of project improvements?
Yeah, let's,
It says, sorry, it helps if I leave them on. Project improvements means site improvements and facilities that are, 1, planned and designed to provide service for development resulting from a development activity, 2, necessary for the use and convenience of the occupants or users of development resulting from a development activity, and 3, not identified or reimbursed as a system improvement.
It's a system improvement.
System improvement, let's see what the definition is.
so if you're expanding the width of the trail and expanding it because of increased use due to increased development, I think it qualifies. When you're
Right.
talking about the parking lot, I think you might run into what Robert mentioned, which is, it sounds like you can use it for the expansion, but maybe not.
Increased use you would, because you'd end up with more
I guess it is an
vehicles.
increased use if you've got
If you get
additional
more parking
vehicles, but I don't know
spots.
how that covers the existing asphalt, right? 'Cause I think that's the concern.
Right, right.
I agree with what you said earlier, Chair.
If we're being safe, let's pay the 21,000 for the parking lot from the general fund balance. There's enough there to cover it, and let's pay for the walking trail from the impact fees, and then we're for sure complying, and we're not walking a gray area.
And this is specific to the Milton
No, this is Enterprise.
Enterprise, thank
Enterprise
you.
project.
So can
Now,
we-
that's just a suggestion. If somebody has a different
Yeah.
suggestion, let's go with it.
What if we were to go and talk with the auditors and make sure, or the state auditor, and find out what...
Attorneys or Zions, I don't know
or
about
Zi-
that.
Yeah, I mean, we ought to, because they're the ones that audit us every year and determine whether or not we did it right or not.
I was just gonna say Zions writes impact fee reports, so
Yeah, okay.
hopefully they know what they're doing if they create them.
So, I mean, I would suggest maybe that, but I'm just wondering.
I'm fine with that suggestion too.
Agree.
Well, we can approve it based on
We
whichever
can approve
fund
an
we
either or.
approve.
right?
Correct.
Yes.
I think the intention is to move forward no matter what.
And
Yeah.
where the funding comes from, we can work that out after we determine what's legal and what's not.
We can approve the expenditure of the funding and then figure out which fund it comes out of.
Right.
Brett, just for my clarification,
Yeah.
the bid on here, yes, the one up on the screen, that's the one where
Yes.
I need to code?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The other is the parking lot at Milton.
And this, currently, there's a small section that is paved, right, Brett, just a little corner.
We're gonna tear that out, yeah.
So this would be replacing,
And
well,
then-
adding asphalt because it's never been paved.
Never been paved on the rest of it, even to the approaches to Morgan Valley Drive on both sides.
I think
I
that
think
would be
that
a
existing
great-
asphalt's from an old tennis court, if I remember.
Yeah, it's gotta be something
Oh,
like
yeah,
that,
I
doesn't it?
remember that. You're right.
It doesn't make sense to be a parking lot there, so, the way it's paved anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
Jared would know, he's old enough to know that stuff.
Wow.
I think that'd be a welcome improvement at that park as well, and would support that. Seems to me that that would qualify for impact fees based on what we read.
Milton?
Yeah, because this
Okay.
is a complete, I mean, we're improving this due to increased use of the park. I'm sure the neighbors will appreciate that there's not a dirt road in and out of it anymore either.
That will be a big improvement.
Any questions then for Brett on the Milton Park project? There's a picture there. Okay, so that purple area will be removed and replaced.
Yes.
So both the blue and purple will all be paved.
And we'll take that out ourselves and get that ready for Parsons.
Ought to also cut down on weeds a little bit there, won't it?
Yeah, that'll help out that, yeah, you bet.
So when you want this out of fund balance, do you want a budget adjustment out of?
So this would be from impact fees.
No, I'm sorry, I apologize, the portion that is coming from general from the parking lot of Enterprise. Does that need to be a budget adjustment, and what line do you want it out of?
It would need to be a budget adjustment, and I'd put it out of the parks probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
And I
get that
can,
submitted.
and I can
But,
get, and I
but
can
it
write
sounds
that up,
like
yeah.
the consensus was to check with the auditors and see if they feel like we could take the full amount from impact fees, and if so, great, and if not, take it from the fund balance. Is that
That's
correct? Okay.
But either way, I will put it on the schedule to,
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, and getting both done this year would be awesome.
we got a good fall. We gotta take advantage of it. Huh?
Yeah, it's nice and it's supposed to be warm for the next 10 days at least.
Yeah.
Thanks for getting those numbers, Brett.
Yeah,
Said it-
Brett, just to verify on these from a procurement standpoint,
Yeah.
did we follow all the procurement procedures on this?
We've got Parsons under contract still, just like our roads, so we
Under
can
a
use
period
them.
of time?
Yeah.
How long do we have them under contract for?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Every 3 years we do an RFP and
And, you know, I thought I was maybe gonna have to put this out to bid, but no, if I do it wide enough, Parsons can pave it, so, there you go.
it'll
If we
be
did it
nicer
narrow,
too
they-
if it's
they-
paved that way rather than by hand. You won't get the,
Yeah, their machine can go down to 8 feet, so. I didn't really know that. I thought maybe we'd have to go, you know, a smaller paving company to do that. They can do it for us, so that's a plus, I think.
So, Brett, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
That little knoll right there in the parking lot, just across from the tree, is that a ditch? No, up, down in the middle, right there, yeah. Is there a reason why that is there? Do you know?
I think there's a culvert there that comes out.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
okay. Well, that being said, if there's no more questions for Brett, we'll look for a motion on this item.
There's no, it's not a resolution.
It's not a resolution, or is it?
No, we don't have a resolution.
So we don't have to have a resolution for this one, okay. All right. I move that we approve the expenditure of the $113,000 for both the Milton Park and the Enterprise Park. As far as where the fund comes from, we'll determine that later. Is that correct?
So I think we've agreed that the Milton Park can come from impact fees, and the walking trail for the Enterprise definitely from impact fees. The one that's in question would be the parking lot, and we'll need to confirm with the auditor if that can come from impact fees, and if not, we'll do a fund balance transfer.
And I've already sent that email. So if not, Katie would come from 103647.
All right, any comments on the motion, and is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. On to item F3. Brett, you're still up. Discussion of a crosswalk or reduced speed limit in front of Lee's Market in Mountain Green.
Okay, did everybody get a look through what I've sent you so far? I talk about a hurry up and get things moving on a project, try to get something done, but it was, nobody really planned on that, having that problem that Friday after school, or, yeah, I guess it was after school the other day. Anyway, we do need to be careful on this kind of stuff because we don't want to, we want to do it the safest way possible. It is a busy road down there, and I think you've got some examples in here if you read through it on crosswalks, but the study needs to be done just to see what's really the proper way to, what we need to do in this situation. We are going to put up some signs as soon as we get them that says no crossing for now, until we do get something figured out on a traffic study, so that is in the plans the next few days.
So, Brett, just a thought on,
Nobody's going to pay attention to that.
No, but
You're talking,
Whether they pay attention or not, we
High
do
school.
have to have signs out there as quick as possible.
Right.
Is there, I know there's sign companies that do have portable signs that read pretty much anything. Have we checked all options on it? I think it's been a week and a half.
I've got them ordered. They're supposed to be in sometime this week. They're not a sign you put up every day. I mean, if I need a 30-mile-an-hour sign, I can get one in the morning.
So in the interim,
Right.
Brett, can we just have the sheriff's office take our giant lit sign down there and put it in
Good
front of
idea.
there?
Yeah, we haven't done that. We could ask them to do that. You bet. Yeah, you bet.
so,
I would suggest we do that for now. I mean, it's a huge sign, but it'll tell them not to cross here.
VMS
They won't
board.
miss the sign. that's
VMS
for
board
sure.
you're talking about.
And it's still,
Yeah, yeah.
VMS board.
so help me to understand the study requirement. To know where to paint it, what kind of crossing to put in.
I guess from my understanding is you typically don't see a crosswalk on a 40-mile-an-hour. People don't slow down quick enough. They don't react quick enough. So
You're
usually,
saying we need to put a stop sign in order to have the crosswalk?
well, if you do a crosswalk, they'll usually slow down the speed from 40. And then sometimes they'll have multiple signs, multiple lighted signs that flash up. I don't know what they're going to recommend, but
Yeah, warning signs ahead, and one thing you got to think about down there is the crosswalk does not line up, so you don't want to put a crosswalk on from here on an angle, because they're not going to follow it anyway. You want to make it just as straight as you can, so when it is in, you go from point A to point B and not on an angle, because it's like the signs you're talking about, Commissioner. They're not going to use it unless it's in properly. So.
But if we give them a place to go with a crosswalk without doing anything else, that's probably a little bit more hazardous. So,
More hazardous than not having one at all?
yes.
That's what you're thinking? Okay.
Oh, sorry. I can definitely appreciate wanting to have some type of a study done to understand what needs to go there. Addressing the problem immediately, I think we can address with some signage, although it's probably not signage, like you said, that will be heated.
I think it might be better to try to just slow the traffic down in the interim, like the speed limit signs.
Yeah, so it starts 40 just when it comes to the county line, just past the county line is 40. Then it goes up to past Silverleaf, stays 40, and then it goes to 45 from just beyond Silverleaf to the Peterson Exchange, to give you an idea. So it'd be my suggestion that we put it down to 30 there if we really think we need to, and then keep it to 30 until Silverleaf. The local residents are going to really have to get used to that. That's going to be a real
Well, and
change
we'll
for
have to
them.
get approval through UDOT on the UDOT section road, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't do the UDOT section, just our section. I'm just talking about from just
The
past.
UDOT section is Sinclair to the exit, so
Yeah,
he's
well,
talking basically.
They're
Sinclair the
45
other
there, by
direction.
the way.
But I guess
yeah.
with the traffic coming up from on the UDOT road, if they're going to go 40 until Sinclair and then have to slow down to 30 or 25 right at the crosswalk a few hundred feet later, I guess it's a regional, right? We're going to have to make sure.
That's why you really have to warn them too. You just don't have that in and don't have, I mean, you really have to warn them with a sign, okay, speed
So
reduced
we'll have to
coming up.
include UDOT.
Yeah. So there's a little more to it
That
than you think.
conversation probably ought to take place anyway in regards to the park that's further down that road, because we have a crosswalk there, don't we?
We're out again.
Or I guess it's not a painted
No, there's
crosswalk,
not
but
a
the
crosswalk
trail
at the
ends
park
there and
either.
directs people
There's
to the
parking, but
park.
not a
Into the
crosswalk.
park.
And we probably ought to talk about that with
It's
UDOT. There
45
probably
there.
should be a crosswalk there, and it probably should be a lower speed limit if that's
And I
the
do get
case.
calls on that when it's not our road, so I can't make any.
But we could certainly talk to UDOT about it and see what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk to the traffic engineer. They've got one of Region 1's.
But I also like the temporary idea of using one of the temporary signs saying, watch out for lane pedestrians,
Yeah.
you know. Or even those stupid little, maybe I shouldn't call them stupid, the little kids crossings things that people put in the neighborhoods, you know.
The sticks.
Little flag.
To those things
Flag.
up there.
It says
Quite
slow
a few of
children on
those.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing, the video to me. I mean, it was like, it was a Hungry Hounds of Budapest on their way, you know, to the Leeds Market that opening day. And I get it was the opening day. We probably should have had the sheriff's department there to let them cross, but it was amazing how interested they were in.
So last Friday was the second Friday that could have happened, and nothing like that happened Friday. So it was it was a grand opening type situation.
I'm sure that was the most. I had a resident call me the other day and said, look, there's still quite a few of them that are headed over there after school.
Yeah, not near as many. And I've spent a lot of
Sure,
time
yeah,
down there.
The first one was like,
I've spent a lot of time down there. I bet I've been down there a dozen times just for this problem. I really haven't seen very many cross. Of course, it's the middle of the day sometimes. Or I've even been down there on Sunday, see what goes on Sunday. And there hasn't been much crossing, so that was a crazy day. That was a crazy video you sent me.
So how quick can this Joe Perrin address this? How quick can he?
Sound like
Give us a
pretty quick.
recommendation.
Sound like right away. I think he's on board with us to get right on it if we need him to.
So we need to approve a cost to get this done, it sounds like.
Yeah.
did
So-
he give you an estimate?
It says not to
Yeah,
exceed
it's in your packet
5,000.
there.
And I guess one other quick thought, I think I sent an email to Josh about this, but Lee's did do a traffic study. And if you take their PDF of their traffic study and type in pedestrian, nothing comes up. So
They didn't do a
they did
pedestrian
not-
study, they done a traffic study.
Well, I agree, but a traffic study includes pedestrian.
Good, yeah,
So
but they
I-
didn't
we
include
might
pedestrian.
maybe might want to rethink on, I don't know what we require in traffic studies, but I think it's brought a new light for us to say we need to make sure we're addressing pedestrian traffic also.
Yeah.
This could be a system improvement,
For sure.
that we could use through.
Yeah, we've got
It's
some-
caused by an increased demand.
I mean, if you want to take my perspective, I think what's going to happen is we're going to end up dropping the speed limit. We're going to have to change the ped ramps, the ADA ramps, so they line up. So they can go across. We're going to paint a crosswalk in there. We're going to put in those beacon lights where they can, at least those, and the ones with buttons are more money, but that's even better. When they come up there, they can hit the button just like you're on 25th Street. And they come up and it's that's about your safest one. I'd be surprised if it comes up any different than that, but we'll see.
In the meantime, Brett, let's talk with the sheriff's office about we've got 2 of those lighted signs.
That's a good idea.
Let's put one telling pedestrians not to cross here temporarily, and one on the road, warning drivers that there's pedestrian traffic.
There's almost no place for the pedestrians to cross, though. I mean, they can't
You're
go
right.
to the Sinclair intersection and then cross in a crosswalk. There's no crosswalk there either.
No, and there's kids that do that. If you go down to Sinclair,
So is
They're
telling
down
them
there
not to
doing lunch,
cross
so they do
worse
it.
than, I don't know. I
So-
mean,
so
do we just
basically,
use those signs to say slow down, there's
Slow
pedestrians
down.
present? I
Because
don't
right
know.
now, there is
I would-
no place for them
yeah.
to cross.
I would suggest we put them up and say, slow down, possible pedestrian traffic on both ends, and then you.
Yeah, and then you can post the other ones. I'll just think that.
So you're intending for this invoice to come out of in transportation impact fees?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we have a motion on this item?
Is there a total cost?
Yeah, it says not to exceed 5,000. It's $250 per hour. Well, there's,
It's just for the study, though.
it's just the study.
You put in what he described, you're gonna be spending some money.
Yeah, you could be anywhere from 65,000 to 100,000 to put in what we need to do. I think you're going to be
Oh.
closer to 100.
So the
That's if you do the lighted.
That's if you do
If
the
you don't
lighted,
do the
yeah.
lighted, and we just sign it, it'll be much less.
Redo the ramps. Redo the ramps is about 17,000, and then you got signs, and then you got, those signs will be solar signs, so they're expensive. There's no way to hook up to power.
So obviously, we'll discuss that at that time, because it'll be over $5,000, but are you wanting the temporary signage as well as the study to come out of the transportation impact?
I would suggest that. I don't think the cost of the temporary signage will be very much.
That's not going to be much. But
Okay.
And then we'll haul the sheriff's, whatever it's called, signage down there also, for now.
For now, yeah. We will get on that tonight or in the morning. So.
Okay, awesome. Okay, do we have a motion then on action item F3?
Make a motion that we approve the contract with A-Trans Transportation Engineering the amount not to exceed 5,000 for the addressing pedestrian crossing at 5,000 West intersection on Highway Road, coming from the funds as discussed.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank
Katie,
you.
that's
Motion
fund
passes.
2844000305. I'll message.
Okay, Brett, back to you. Action item 4.
Again. I'm gonna go virtual on this one.
Okay, this is discussion on paving at the county airport.
Okay, did you get the map on that? In the packet?
Yes.
On over Joel here. Joe. He's the county airport manager. Anyway, the reason this kind of come up is we do have a new hangar owner that's willing to pay part of this paving to Willow Creek on the one side. If you look at the one in blue, he's willing to pay quite a bit of that to get us paved over to Willow Creek. The one in green is tying those taxiways together, and we do snow plow that, makes it a little tougher. And the other one over to the pink is the other taxiway going over to Canyon, or Cottonwood Canyon Road.
And you're wanting to take out the orange area, is that correct?
Yeah, that was something that Joe put in there. We can do that, but that was a lot of, that was a hundred and, let's see, that was how much was that?
Is that even an approved entrance there?
Say that again?
That pink area, that entrance, is that an approved, or approved?
Well, it's been there a long time.
Entrance.
It's gravel now. It's been there for a
Yeah,
long
it's
time.
been there forever.
I think that was the original
Yeah,
entrance.
it probably was.
Where people went into the airport. I think the Cottonwood one or the Willow Creek Road one is actually the newer.
So,
I would do both. I wouldn't do the orange area.
No, that was something when I met Parsons up there to get a bid on this. I might come back and he'd put that in there, and I mean, could be done, but in my opinion, this was necessary to get that paved into the road, and that is what we snow plow, by the way.
So Brett, the 87,000 is the pink, green, and blue areas all combined?
Yes. And then the hangar owners offered to pay 25,000 of that. He would pave, if you look in the blue area, you got that new, the building looks, it probably just has a foundation there at the time. He'd basically pave out, maybe halfway, maybe a little more, over to Willow Creek. And then he's wanting to add even himself paving, if you take that blue back towards, say on the east side of his hangar, he's wanting to add that, but that'll be on his dime, so. And again, this is with Parsons, that they are under contract to pay for us, so. So yeah, the county's portion, I put it on here, the county's portion would be 62,192.50. Because we did the
In
3
our-
areas.
In our budget discussions for the 2025 budget, we've agreed to establish an airport capital improvement fund that'll help fund these types of projects into the future, and I think that'll be wonderful for this type of thing. Currently, we don't have an airport capital improvement fund. Thank you. So I guess any cost for this would be from general fund.
And we didn't receive any grants this year, Brett?
Not that I know of. I'll have to ask Joe if he's, but not that I know of. We have received them before to crack seal and to seal the runway.
I think that one's the crack. Another crack seal one's in the work because I think it's going to fund in 2025.
That one, as I recall, doesn't usually have a match, right?
It has a match, but we're usually able to
Labor.
do it with our own labor, the match part.
So is that just, that looks pretty narrow to me to have planes go down that
Well, I guess it-
with
it-
wingspan. Is it just a is it
It's just a
for
driveway.
trucks?
It's just a driveway, yeah.
Okay, that's what I
That's the
thought.
green area, right?
Yeah, the green area is just a driveway. Tie them two together.
And we still only have the one hold down area where the planes are at on the bottom part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So currently, right now, that has grindings in there, road basin grindings. Both of them, or all three of them do.
That green area, I think paving that would help clean that up a bit too and make it easier for us to clean that
Yeah, it would be
area
easier to
between
clean.
there and the road.
Plus the dust won't be as bad in
and
the
the
summer.
neighbors.
Yeah, it'll
Maybe
make snow
beautification.
removal a little quicker, and we'll be able to stack it better places. And
So the opening you have on the blue area, is it, I mean, it looks to me like it's wide at the front, goes in narrow and then come back out. How come we don't have it pretty much straight?
that's it's about a 24-foot opening, I think. The way that comes in, I don't think that drawing does it justice on how.
As I say, because isn't our code for normal residential, rural residential, it's 30 feet? I'm just trying to.
I think that's a retention pond right there,
Okay.
isn't it?
All right, I don't know, that's what I was
But on
asking.
this side, yeah, on the north side of it, that is a retention pond, yeah.
All right.
Brett, do you know if the price included raising utilities on that green section? I think you got a few utilities in there.
I know we do have a sewer in there, and I actually fixed that last year because it did get hit with a snowplow and broke that manhole, broke that cone, you know. So I did fix that.
Well, do we have money to raise the utilities when we put the asphalt in, or is asphalt just gonna match it?
They were just barely put in.
No, I haven't put anything in there to raise utilities. That'd be on top of that.
Do we have any thought on what that might cost?
Yeah.
Is it just the one that's
Every manhole we do is around $3,500, so give me an
so
idea.
maybe another 10,000?
Probably at the most, yeah.
Well, seems like a worthwhile project to do. Is this something we can get done this year as well, you think?
Same thing, we've got them on a tentative schedule, just like the parks.
I think it's a worthwhile project to do. I think it's important to clean it up and make it look better. I also believe that the berm that we've discussed in the past is an important project, and if I were actually prioritizing, I'd probably go the other direction, but this is, I think when you've got the paved surfaces connected to dirt coming in and out, it just makes for a pretty sloppy looking facility.
That brings up a point, though. We probably ought to consider placing some conduits under this in a couple of places. If we do end up doing some landscape work there, it'd be nice to be able to run and not have to tear up a new drive to do that.
Especially underneath the driveway. if we
You're
can
talking
take
about
water
putting
from above.
you're talking about putting irrigation on that hillside, is it?
Well, if we do, I don't know that we will. The truth is, I think we'd be better off doing like a xeriscape.
Yeah, I
there.
would too, yeah.
But if we needed irrigation for trees or something, I think it would be wise to throw some,
Yeah, we'd have to think about
3-inch
that now.
conduit under there.
We could do that, that wouldn't be a problem, but I'd definitely go for xeriscape in my.
Well, I agree with that as well, but even xeriscape requires some
Maintenance.
irrigation. So.
Yeah, we can put that in, that's not a problem.
Let's plan
Not
on that if
until
we're
now.
gonna do it, just to think ahead a little bit.
Make sure you put the conduit or whatever for the water underneath that, going in where the blue area is.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
probably
Just
keep
in
it
case
off.
we decide to
We'd
use some
probably
of the
keep it
runoff
off the
from
main
the
traffic area. yeah.
Highland, or from the Cottonwoods area.
That'd be something we'd probably do ourselves. Get that ready.
So I know this a little bit in the future, but is there anything stopping this typical resident from just driving in there?
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm surprised.
Not yet.
Not yet, should
I'm
we be putting
surprised
a
that
gate in
there's the
there?
ability for
Probably ought to consider that.
somebody to just drive onto a airport.
Especially at night, we could close it up during the day. and open.
Well, and that's another reason to have some conduit under there if we need to run power for a gate.
Yeah, none of us gated yet.
I know Buster's gonna put in a closure on his end at that point, so that's electric. And 'cause that'll be the third entrance in that side.
So adding the raising of the utilities and the 3-inch conduit, how do you want me to do a budget adjustment estimate
Brett, do you
for
think
that?
if we just did like 15,000 and up to 15,000 in cost to cover that, do you think that would cover it?
You're talking about for the conduit.
Well, between conduit and raising
Yeah,
the,
and open. That'd probably cover it, yeah.
So 15 on top of the 62 and change?
60.
Especially if we do some of it ourselves, we can.
just so we
do
can
it
approve. enough
fairly
for 'em to get the
inexpensive, yeah.
project done.
So if I did a 67.5, and then your options for expense line item, do you consider this an improvement or maintenance?
An improvement.
Okay, so your choices for improvements is improvements, improvement other than buildings, or a capital outlay.
What, sorry, what are you
Improvements,
discussing?
improvements other than building and capital outlay.
Yeah, that's the three
Oh, those are
expenses.
some duplicative accounts.
You think?
Certainly, these are improvements other than buildings.
Okay.
And I think the amount probably, because it's 62 for just the paving, if we add 15 to that, you're at 77.
So you're
So maybe
77,
if you did like
192.
77.5 would probably cover it all.
Okay, I'll write it up.
Are
Gotta
we,
keep Leslie happy.
are we putting that together as a, to come back? When you say you'll write that out, or are you just talking about?
I was just talking about the budget adjustment.
Okay, okay. So we need a motion then on this item.